There is a massive industry built on a simple premise. If you feel stuck, you just need to add something to your routine. Buy a crystal, download a meditation app, repeat your morning affirmations, or burn sage in the corners of your room. But if none of that is working, you aren't doing the wrong rituals. You're just falling for the trap that most of the people selling you those tools are stuck in themselves. You cannot grow by constantly piling new habits on top of deep, unresolved psychological patterns. Over a century ago, the psychiatrist Carl Jung spent decades studying the mechanics of human transformation. He didn't look at the performance of growth. He examined the clinical realities of how a personality actually evolves. He found that true growth requires subtraction. You cannot pour clean water into a contaminated tank and expect it to stay clean. The new habits you introduce will simply be absorbed by the deep patterns you refuse to release. To actually shift your baseline state of being, something has to go. Jung identified 5 specific, deep-seated psychological identities that act as heavy anchors. You don't manage these weights. You don't reduce them. You have to let them die entirely. The first weight is the compulsion to be perceived as a good person. Think about how much daily energy goes into managing what others think of you. You bite your tongue, say yes when you mean no, and swallow your frustration just to keep the peace. Jung called this carefully constructed performance the persona. It looks like kindness on the surface, but it is a survival strategy driven by the fear of rejection. It is an exhausting way to move through the world, rooted in staying small enough to be acceptable. Letting this die means dropping the performance. It requires you to be honest, firm, and boundaried, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Jung noted that you have released when you can disappoint someone and feel stable in your own knowing. When you no longer need external approval to stabilize your worth, you stop operating in a state of anxious survival. You achieve genuine groundedness, the ability to exist without chasing someone down to over-explain yourself. The second weight is the intense compulsion to fix, save, and heal everyone around you. Jung called this the wounded healer archetype, and it is rarely as selfless as it appears. When your sense of value relies on being needed, you will unconsciously seek out people who are falling apart. It is codependency wearing the clothing of compassion. Evolving past this means learning to offer support only when it is asked for, and from a place of personal fullness. It means you can watch someone struggle, trust that their difficulty has a purpose, and sit with them in their pain without trying to control the outcome. Surrendering this role is painful because it forces a terrifying question. If you are no longer the person holding everyone else together, you finally have to sit still and face your own unresolved pain. The third weight is the exhausting attachment to being perfectly understood. It is the habit of spending 40 minutes in a conversation, rephrasing your feelings, desperately trying to find the exact combination of words that will make someone finally see your side. This reveals a lack of internal authority. When your inner experience only feels legitimate after someone else confirms it, you outsource your reality to their capacity to comprehend it. The release happens when you build a relationship with your own inner knowing, strong enough to stand without external confirmation. You know what you felt, and that truth does not change just because someone else couldn't follow you there. This leads right into the fourth weight, holding on to the fantasy of who someone could become. You keep the door open for someone who consistently hurts you because you see the fully healed version of them. But relating to potential is a projection. It is a defense mechanism that allows you to avoid making difficult decisions about the actual human being standing in front of you. Releasing these relational crutches requires real grief. You have to mourn the person who does not exist, so you can finally make choices based on clear, present reality. The final and measured weight is the identity of being wounded. While the trauma you endured is a significant part of your history, organizing your entire existence around that harm is a psychological trap. Jung observed that many people can articulate their wounds with great precision, but remain stuck because they continue to use those wounds as their primary introduction to the world. They interpret every new experience and every personal limitation through the filter of what was done to them. Releasing this doesn't mean pretending the harm didn't happen. It means integrating the experience so you are no longer defined by it. The central question of your life shifts from what was done to you to who you are becoming through the process of integration. Because these 5 identities were often built as genuine survival mechanisms in childhood, letting them go feels dangerous. It feels like psychological annihilation. When the old self dies, but the new one hasn't yet formed, you enter a dark, disorienting period of transition. Jung called this the void. Feeling lost here isn't a sign that you are failing. It is the indication that a foundational shift is actually occurring. Real human growth does not happen in comfortable, well-lit spaces. It requires the willingness to sit patiently in the dark, empty space between who you were and who you are becoming. What emerges on the other side is not a polished, spiritually elevated caricature. It is someone who acts from authenticity instead of seeking approval, who trusts their own knowing, and who deals with reality exactly as it is. This genuine transformation rests on rigorous intellectual study and internal unspooling, not merely the tools of the modern wellness industry. Sage and affirmations support the process, but they cannot replace the subtraction of the false self. Jung's message was blunt. If you are serious about genuine change, you have to stop trying to make the journey feel easy. Stop trying to add things to your life. Have the courage to surrender your oldest weights. Grieve the loss of who you thought you were, and discover who you actually are when you are no longer carrying them.